Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Martha Knisley, and my pronouns are she, her. Challenged by our liberating faith, we discover deeper spiritual meaning, nurture loving community, cultivate courageous connections, and partner in the work of justice. Welcome to all of you on live stream and in person. We're pleased to have guests with us in this room and participating virtually. I encourage you to reach out to our Director of Member Relations, Kelly Green. Her email is on the screen. We have large print orders of service, personal hearing assistance devices, and an elevator available. There's also a hearing loop in our alternate worship space downstairs in the Bernstein room. We have coloring pages and fidgets for all ages in the vestibule, if that's useful to you or your children. I have a few announcements. Today, after the service at 11:30, we'll have our monthly theme discussion in the Bernstein room, again downstairs. March's theme is anticipation. Next Sunday, we welcome a special musical guest, the 50-voice Oglethorpe University Choir from Atlanta. Information about these and other events can be found in your order of service and online in our weekly newsletter, Currents. Again, a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Whether you're here in person or joining via live stream, whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, origins, identities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. It is good to be together.
Look we fit together, perfect from the start. I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start. I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start.
Good morning. And welcome again. I'm Reverend Amanda, and what a joy it is to gather together once more, and welcome to March. A new month means a new monthly theme for worship, religious education, and congregational life. For the month of March, that theme is anticipation. Now, anticipation comes in many forms. It could be a waiting and a watching. It could be hopeful. All winter long, when the trees are bare and the ground is hard, it may seem like there's nothing going on, but underground we know that life is happening. Work is happening. And as spring comes, many of us anticipate the emergence of the fruits of that labor. And as many things are emerging in our congregation, myself and the Justice Ministry team, we're reimagining what our justice footprint looks like here in our congregation. What are our justice priorities? And that starts with each one of you. During coffee hour in Freeman Hall, you'll see a long swath of paper rolled out on a table where you're invited to write any and all suggestions. Perhaps it's things that you're already involved in the community, organizations and groups that you already work with. Perhaps it's something that you want to be involved in. Maybe it is something that is just a category that is important to you. Feel free to write that. We'll have that swath of paper out every week for a while as we look at our priorities together, and you will have an opportunity to be a part of that. Much like the work of community, the ways that we care for each other, the ways that we labor to build the beloved community, so much of it happens in spaces that we don't always see, in ways that we don't always know. But it's there always, waiting and ready to emerge. So we light our chalice this morning in the spirit of hope, emergence, anticipation, and of course, that abiding joy. And it is in that spirit that I invite you now to turn and greet your neighbor as we begin our service.
Good morning. There's this perky, bright energy going on this morning. I'm liking it. I am Paula Gribble, Director of Religious Education, and my pronouns are she, her. This morning, I want to talk to you about circles. Circles are a great shape, a strong shape. They have no beginning or end, and they can be small or larger, or even different circles that are interconnected. Can you make a circle? We make a circle ourselves, and then we actually make a circle wide. Lots of cool things are circles, like bubbles, and rings, hula hoops, and donuts. Wheels are circles, and oranges, and the moon, and the planets. In a different way, we create circles of people in our lives. Your family is a small circle, but we can widen that circle to include friends. And it can grow even bigger so that we include our community, and it can grow so big that we are the whole world. And that's just the size of the circle. That's not even the coolest part. Did you know circles are one of the strongest shapes? Did you know that? It's true. Circles share the weight evenly across the whole circle without one spot taking all the pressure, and so they can stay strong even when there's a heavy load. But we have to be paying attention a little bit when we're building circles of people. It can be easy to create a small circle around ourselves and keep it that way. We don't want to lose our small circles, but we might just think that they're safer that way, or that we don't have to do a lot to keep the circle going. But we can forget that when we draw our circles wider, we can include others, and that circle can work together to create something strong. Another great thing about circles is that there's no beginning or end. When we sit in circles, there isn't one part of the circle more important than another. So you may remember or have heard of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. That round table was round on purpose because there was no head of the circle, no one point that was more important than each other. When we create circles like this, everyone gets a voice, and all the people in the circle get an equal part. But there's one more thing I want to say about circles. We can be in different circles in our lives of different sizes, but we can also connect our circles to each other. I mentioned that we can be a circle of family or friends, but we also have other circles we're a part of, like a sports team or a class at UUCC, or a group of people that come together to stand up for something they care about. And they could just be separate circles, different circles, or they could be connected. When we're a part of one circle and a part of another, we can join these circles together. And then we're not only creating one strong circle in our lives, but many connected ones. Strong shapes where we can include many others, and we can grow that way. There's a place for each of the circles in our lives. But when we realize how they can connect to each other, we can have both. Ways to have the belonging and safety of smaller circles, and ways to have ever-growing connections. I hope you will think of the many circles in your life and how they might grow, how they can be strong, and how they can connect to one another. And now our children and youth are going to go work in one of their circles in their classes. We're going to sing them out. Yeah! I like excitement. We're going to sing them out, and everyone will gather across the hall where we'll meet our teachers and go to class. Thank you.
After this past week, it's obvious to me more than ever that I can't live in isolation and that I will have to dig deeper to find that center that will sustain me. As a Unitarian Universalist, I have relied on many sources to lift me, to help me find strength. Have you ever stood in front of a bookshelf and so many choices and wondered, which book is calling me? Which was the one I needed most at that moment? Or a friend points you to a book or a new reading or a prayer at just the right time. That happened to me again recently with the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. He writes, gathering these insights has been like finding bits of stone that glistened on the path. Essentially, they speak about spirit and friendship, about our ongoing need to stay vital and in love with this life, no matter the hardships we encounter. From many traditions, from many experiences, from many beautiful and honest voices, the songs herein all sing of pain and wonder and the mystery of love. I offer you his words this morning. The spoked wheel. Imagine that each of us is a spoke in an infinite wheel. And though each spoke is essential in keeping the wheel whole, no two spokes are the same. The rim of that wheel is our living sense of community, family, and relationships. But the common hub where all the spokes join is the one center where all souls meet. So, as I move out into the world, I live out my uniqueness. But when I dare to look into my core, I come upon the one common center where all lives begin. In that center, we are one and the same. In this way, we live our paradox of being both unique and the same. For mysteriously and powerfully, when I look deep enough into you, I find me. And when you dare to hear my fear in the recess of your heart, you recognize it as your secret that you thought no one else knew. And that unexpected wholeness that is more than each of us, but common to all, that moment of unity is the atom of God. Not surprisingly, like most people in the first half of my life, I worked very hard to understand and strengthen my uniqueness. I worked hard to secure my place at the rim of the wheel, and so defined and valued myself by how different I was from everyone else. But in the second half of my life, I have been humbly brought to the center of that wheel. And now I marvel at the mysterious oneness of our spirit. Mark continues to write, through cancer and grief and disappointment and unexpected turns in career, through the very breakdown and rearrangement of the things I have loved, I have come to realize that as water smooths stone and enters sand, we become each other. What I've always thought set me apart binds me to others. Please remain seated for our song. The lyrics will be on the screen.
Together
From Adrienne Marie Brown. Tune in to the prevalence of the spiral in the universe. The shape in the prints of our fingertips echoes into geological patterns all the way to the shape of galaxies. Then notice that the planet is full of these fractals. Cauliflower, yes, and broccoli, ferns, deltas, veins through our bodies, tributaries. All of these are echoes of themselves at the smallest and largest scales. Dandelions contain an entire community in each spore that gets blown on the breath of a child. We are in a time of great change, just as rapid as it is inevitable. Now, the task here isn't to resist or hold off change, or even to reverse it, but to, as Octavia Butler would say, shape change, just as it is shaping us. Today is all about the micro and the macro, reflections, echoes, and mirrors. And we can't talk about the changes we are living through today in greater society without looking right here among us, because we are but a reflection. American religiosity has been changing for quite some time, for decades really, and the pandemic just sped that up. It was a huge disruptor of a system that was already in great flux. In a lot of ways, the pandemic catapulted us into some harsh realities that have been written on the wall and lying in wait for a long time. And one of those harsh realities being that our institutions had not caught up to us. Our institutions functioning like they did 30, 40, 60 years ago have not reflected the present needs and the present realities of the people belonging to them. And the institution of church is no different. So here we are now, and many are questioning the purpose of faith communities altogether. What is the point? And it's not just unchurched people wondering from the outside. I myself also wonder, why are we here? And what do we seek? What do we seek from religious life when, especially in this religion such as ours, it doesn't require a dogma, which does not require a profession of faith or a sacrament, this faith of ours, that doesn't even require a conversion. It's unique in that way. Instead, our faith is invitational. We are invited into a covenant of our own making, invited into a mission and a vision of our own design, invited into a space made holy by each one of us. Just as we shape change, we shape this place, this entity. And while change is inevitable, we have an opportunity right now to shape the change into transformation. At the beginning of February, we explored our individual roles in shaping change. We looked at the social change ecosystem map, and we identified the various roles in that ecosystem. Roles like visionary, healer, caregiver, frontline responder, and so forth. These roles were very focused on individual gifts and individual strengths. And then so at the end of the month, just last week, we had a revival, a time of reclaiming joy within crisis, a time to approach one of the most pressing challenges of our time through a lens of possibility and reimagining together. What a beautiful arc that is, to go from the small to the large, from our individual role to the role of our faith community, to move through finding our own purpose, to challenging ourselves to go beyond what we know, to go beyond what has been established, and to build a new way from the micro to the macro. What a story that weaves about our interconnectedness. What a testament to the inescapable network of mutuality described so often by Dr. King. These fractals, These echoes at the smallest and largest scales, these repeated patterns that are at times so small you can hold in the palm of your hand like the seed of a dandelion, and so vast that it pushes up against the boundaries of our imagination, just like the faraway galaxies that we can only imagine, and we can imagine so much. So if we are to reimagine together, let us start with this old Chinese proverb. Where there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. Where there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the home. Where there is harmony in the home, there will be honor in the nation. Where there is honor in the nation, there will be peace in the world. That is to say, where there is light in the soul, there will be peace in the world. Now that's a pretty weighty aspiration, especially given the state of the world today. It seems that no matter the amount of beauty or harmony or honor that any of us have is making any impact, especially when power is so tightly held and so recklessly wielded, when the ideals of democracy and representation and progress are eroding before our very eyes, when real people suffer real consequences born of ego and greed and just plain cruelty. What does it matter what kind of light there is in my soul? But we have been here before. We have been here time and again. This is not our first rodeo, and it likely will not be our last. And that light and that beauty, that harmony, it has always mattered. And at times like these is when it matters the most. Light and beauty, harmony, honor, and peace, these are tools that shape change. These are powerful tools of transformation, and I know this because the only way I'm speaking to you today is because of those who came before us in their own contexts of despair, wielding these tools of transformation to shape their world for generations to come, all the way up to me. They were willing to dream beyond. So we reimagine, but we have to know where we've been to know where it is that we want to go. So let's look at the big picture of religiosity from the outside. For centuries, faith communities in structure have reflected the status quo. They've reflected the dominant power structures of the societies in which they operated. They've often reflected the social dynamics of the culture they belong to, and they have held and promoted the dominant ideals of their time. And this is regardless of doctrine or dogma, denomination. This is across the religious spectrum. The practice of any given house of worship has been a microcosm of the society that it belongs to. And that remains so in modern times. 20th century American religiosity reflected a time of optimism and growth. Particularly post-World War II, faith communities mirrored and strived for this upward mobility and expansion. Civic engagement in general was a driving force of American life back in the day. People belonged to things. Social clubs, bowling leagues, PTOs, HOAs, unions, community centers. These were staples in American life. James Luther Adams, our very own Unitarian theologian extraordinaire, often wrote about voluntary association, or in other words, community involvement. The importance of being connected to the immediate community in organized and structured ways. And so while many of these institutions are still around, the glory days of civic engagement are behind us. It's all most people can do these days to keep their heads above water and stay on top of the most critical tasks in their day-to-day life. So this major societal shift has been happening for a long time, and it has leapt forward over the past 5 or so years. And so it is from without as it is within. People are less engaged in religious community, and this is also across belief and denomination. With just a few exceptions, people are less engaged in communal life. And much like in the wider society, The dominant model and structure of the modern church is based on the notion of rugged individualism, a community of individuals with personal interests and agendas, certain needs and certain wants competing for resources, rooted in a kind of transactionalism, married to hierarchies of authority and power, fueled by the quest for personal satisfaction and gain, tethered to the metrics of success and physical growth and expansion. What it has meant to be successful as a church for most of the 20th century and throughout the present was exponential growth. Growth in membership, growth of resources, growth of personal satisfaction. And by those metrics alone, can we be surprised that churches feel as though they are failing? That model prioritizes expansion and personal interest and personal gain. It is ultimately dissatisfying. It is an unquenchable thirst because it will never be enough. And all we must do to know that is to zoom out and look at the big picture. It's an exact replica of the extractive practices that have ravished our society, that have us isolated and disconnected, unable to build thriving communities, and stifled in our own survival mode. And yet, here we have gathered. Here we have chosen to come together to build a new way. Here we have chosen to journey together rather than alone. Here we have gathered because when we could have been anywhere else, we chose to be here despite it all, because of it all. And I don't know about you, but there's something in that gives me hope and an abiding joy. But the question persists: why are we here? To receive a perfectly flawless and curated religious experience that checks all of our boxes? Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. That's not going to happen. At least not that simply. Religious life, spiritual life, it's deeper than that. It's richer than that. And when you choose to do it all in community with other people, it's downright messy. And y'all, that's a good thing. This dominant model of constant growth and expansion, it depends on perfection. More specifically, us chasing the dangling carrot of perfection, or in religious terms, purity. The right system, the right person, the right Sunday service, the right time, the best idea, the correct way of seeing it, the only way to do it, the way that it's always been done, and we will run ourselves ragged chasing ghosts. But let's talk about transformation. Let's talk about the act of shaping change. What if a focus on growth of numbers became a focus on depth of relationship? What if instead of transactions, there was a shift to mutuality? Rather than a focus on personal interest, individual gifts and skills were centered and nourished. What if expansion became outreach and service to the community that holds us? One of the places where this kind of transformation lives is in the shift from a church being a community of individuals to a community of communities. Community of communities is a concept nurtured by Paula Cole-Jones, who's based out in DC and does a lot of work with UU congregations and systems of change. This concept is based on the idea that each group, every team, every area in a congregation is a community unto itself. But those communities do not stand alone, nor do they operate in silos. These communities are bound up in one another, tethered and connected. A micro of the macro, a fractal, an echo, a mirror to, and a reflection of one another. And these communities weave together to form something created by each and yet bigger than all. That thing that it creates, that's what lasts beyond us all. That's what reaches back and travels forward and roots us in this moment and tugs at our hearts. That is what we shape as we shape it. That is the community. I see the community of communities as an example of a fractal. That what goes into the smallest happens at the largest. That happens at the most inconsequential level only mirrors what and who we are at our most visible. A good friend of mine was on the janitorial staff of a church many, many years ago, and we still laugh at all the secrets and intel that they amassed during their time there, simply because no one was paying attention to the person cleaning up after them. It's a compelling point of view, the church through the eyes of a janitor. The stories that point to the truth of what a place is really about. Myself, of course, other than lead ministry, I'm most familiar with the community that is a church choir. What it means to come together and rehearse, to practice, to learn something from scratch with the express purpose of sharing it with others, to sit down and focus on a piece of music and go from fumbling through it to creating a beautiful noise, to become one voice in many parts, to listen to your neighbor, to listen to the parts that aren't yours, to be moved and to move others. This is why I'm always going to be a choir kid at heart. It is my original community. A congregation is full of these kinds of communities with their own unique vibe, their own needs, and their own contributions, but it is in the mutuality that the community of communities really takes form. When we show up for one another, when we ask not only what does my community need, but what do other communities need as well? How are we connected? What does support look like? What does it mean for us all to thrive? What does it mean for us all to thrive? What does it mean for us all to thrive? That is transformational. And I believe that that right there will carry us forward. And the good news this morning, beloveds, is that we are here. We have the opportunity to do something with this moment, to be transformed by the change that surrounds us and that engulfs us, to pull from our collective wisdom, our traditions, our history, and also to build a new way that is rooted in our own authenticity and our sheer determination, and not because of some high-minded notion of who we should be or who we ought to be, but because of who we are already right now. Yes, we are a reflection of the world around us. Yes, we are an echo, but there are many worlds of which to sing. Yes, the world is broken, but it is also beautiful. Let us reflect the millions lending their hearts and their voices to rise up against hate. Let us be an echo of the many who are busy creating resistance through beauty. Let us mirror the innovation and community resilience right here in Charlotte, just like the organizations with which we partner who are doing amazing and important work. Let us reflect a world that exists right now, full of people who are only trying to make it a better place. People who are making it a better place. That world still exists. And I am unwilling to forget that world. I am unwilling to let go of the evidence right before my eyes when every single day ordinary people show up and take their place in this world. Ordinary people who fight for their communities. Ordinary people who still care, who will not give up. I will not forget that world in the face of despair. So if we are to be a reflection, let us reflect the light and the beauty and the harmony. Let us be the seed of a dandelion. Let us be a vast universe. Margaret Mead said it best. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's all that ever has. That is worth showing up for. That is worth working for. That is why I am here. So the question still stands, why are you? And in all the mess, all the trial and error, and all the ways that we are transforming and becoming, I'll tell you what, there's no other group of thoughtful, committed people with which I'd rather change the world than all of you. May it be so. Blessed be.
As I'm sure most of you are aware, our Sunday morning services come after much thought, conversation, and preparation. There are many moving parts and many people involved from our community. Actually, you could say that about all of the programming and support available to each of us. This planning and deep work is ongoing throughout the week, months, and year. We're grateful to our members who pledge their generous financial support and make regular contributions to sustain the work of our congregation. For text donations, you can simply text GIVE to UUCC to 73256, followed by your gift amount, or follow the instructions on the screen. While the offering is collected, you're invited to come forward and light a candle honoring a milestone, concern, or celebration. The ushers may now come forward to receive the offering.
In this space, we need not leave our burdens behind. We need not arrive as perfect people with perfect lives, leaving it all at the door. Instead, we make a space for all that we are, all that we carry, with the promise of our shared faith and knowing that we journey it together. We arrive at the end of another disappointing and challenging week in the larger scale of our shared land. We arrive at the beginning of a new week full of possibilities, the beginning of a new month. So let me take this time to reiterate what kind of a congregation we are. We are a congregation that welcomes, that will have your back, that will protect marginalized communities, that will shield one another, that will continue being in the fight and the struggle, that will continue showing up. This is a place where we are all welcome. We are welcome in all of the expressions of our gender. We are welcome in the expressions of who we love. We are welcome regardless and in celebration of all of the differences and diversity that we bring, because that is how we are strong. Because that matters. And it matters to say that in this kind of a world. So as we grow outward, we get deeper. We go deeper. We invite the depth, and we invite connection, because we create it. For all the joys and concerns in our hearts, for all that is known and unknown, for all that is spoken and unheard, we lift our hearts. We remember that the strength of this community is in our interconnectedness, and what we are seeking is already seeking us. Please join me in a moment of silence for all the joys and concerns in our hearts. Won't you please join me in a moment of stillness, of rootedness, perhaps rooting down to your spot, being exactly where you're at, lowering your gaze or even closing your eyes. Join me in a moment of prayer. Spirit of life, Spirit of life, Spirit of life. We call forward this presence into this space that extends beyond these four walls. We call that presence into this time made by each one of us. We come with gratitude for another opportunity to gather together, to choose to be here, to choose who to be with, the power that it is to choose one another when we could be choosing anything else. Spirit of life, we gather once again to remember and to reflect so many who have come before us, so many who have laid the table that we now eat at, so many who have built this community long before any of us were here. We come also remembering those to come after us that will benefit from the work we do today, knowing that we are all connected, that we weave a bright, vibrant tapestry, that we are in a network of mutuality, and that what is done to one of us is truly done to all of us. May we remember, as we move through our week and our month, as we move through our lives, to hold on and cherish and love the community around us, starting with ourselves, where there is light in the soul. May we carry these blessings forward, the blessings found in community, the blessings found among one another. May we do this all being held and supported. May we take good care of ourselves, and may we be one another's keeper. May it always be so. Ashe. Blessed be. Our benediction this morning is always our gratitudes. As we've heard, so many hands and hearts go into the Sunday service. Big shout out to our tech team, always keeping us connected and amplified and rooted. And as always, the choir, the music, the musicians. I know I am partial, as I admitted this morning. I am a choir kid. But also, music is the backbone of what we do here on Sunday mornings. So thank you to our musicians for being your own ministry, your own community. And the ministry, my lay service leader over here holding it down. Great job this morning. What a joy it is to do worship together. What a joy it is for us all to gather the ministry that we all carry. So may we carry our ministries forward. Won't you rise and join me in our closing hymn, Come and Go With Me.
Come
Please join me in extinguishing our chalice, reading the words up on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. You may be seated.